All right. Thank you for tuning in. I want to thank you for clicking on our first time buyer workshop. We want to make sure that we give you as much information as possible. And listen, we understand 100% buying a house in this day and age, in this market, it is tough, right? There's a lot to learn in a fast amount of time. So we want to make sure we give you all the information you possibly can at your fingertips, at home, in your free time. So that way you can figure out if it's a good time for you to make the next step. So let's go ahead and get started. A little bit about us. So I'm one of the owners of E3 Realty. My name is Chris Ristau. I'm also a realtor and a loan officer. Been doing this for over 12 years. So the good news is I kind of know all the different foreign languages, everything that's going on, and how they all kind of work together. So let's go step by step for you. Okay. Things we're gonna go over today is a loan program overview, real estate home buying process, current market update, as well as 5 myths about buying a home. So the reality of it is there are myths about buying a home that we want to make sure we debunk, as well as give you a market update on what's currently going on. All right. So first thing first, I'd love to say I do it all on my own, but that'd be a lie. So I want to introduce you to the team on our buyer side team for helping us with the showing of the properties and writing contracts and doing everything there. We have Stacy McDonald. She's been doing this for over 5 years. She's a go-getter. She's got a great personality. She really makes sure she knows the inside and outs of what your needs and wants are, and really make sure she gets her offers accepted. She's one of the best agents we have at getting offers accepted. Anytime we get her out there looking at properties that you want, she's winning them. And that's the key with having a really good buyer's agent. Margaret, on the other hand, she's a wizard when it comes to lending. She knows lending inside and out. She's been doing this for, I want to say at least 10 years now, maybe more. But we have any questions on lending at all, she's going to have the answer. She's got all the connections to all the different lenders. She also knows everything that's going on with the new programs that are coming out. It just stays on top of her game. So at the end of the day, we want to make sure we surround ourselves with really, really good agents and loan officers who can help us grow. So that's a little bit about the team. So let's go ahead and get out with three of the major myths that people hear all the time. It's difficult to get a home loan. You need perfect credit to get a loan. And also you need a 20% down payment. So let's go ahead and break those down here. Number one, super easy to get pre-approved for a property. We send you a secure link with an application link, as well as that's where you're going to send all your documents to a secure portal, right? So there's no way for anybody to kind of get your documents. They're all secure. What she's going to do is review your application. She's going to take a look at it, and then she's going to send a custom list of documents. So you fill out the application, you get a custom list of documents that she's going to send over to you, and then you upload those. Once you upload all those documents, then basically we're going to sit down and go over all the different options for you, the different programs you can qualify for, whether that's a VA loan, FHA, conventional, down payment assistance, you name it, we'll go over all those different options with you. A little bit about down payment, right? Down payment, everything you need 20% down. You need 20% down for no mortgage insurance. Now, the average payment right now for first-time buyer is 6% down. If we only were able to buy a house with 20% down, the market would never have any buyers in the market because it's just very hard, especially living here in the Bay Area, to actually be able to have 20% down payment plus pay rents and everything else. So it's very, very difficult to do that. So got to make sure that you have different loan programs out there to help protect against that. Third thing is credit challenges. Now, look, credit scores for FHA go all the way down 550, 580. Conventional starts at 620. VA's at 580. And there's different programs, different lenders that have special rules for all these different programs as well. We want to get your credit in the best position possible. So we'll review your credit with you. We'll go over all the different options you can to get your score up instantly with paying off some debt or things along those lines. And listen, sometimes we maybe need some credit repair. We have one of the best credit repair agencies out there working with our clients to get them pre-approved to buy a house, because they know at the end of the day, their reason why you came to them is to buy a home. And the quicker we can get the credit dialed in to get you to buy a home, that is their goal. So we're always working together with some of the best vendors out there to put you in the best position possible at the end of the day. So super easy is 1, 2, 3. Okay. Now, there's different types of loan programs and terms, and we're going to keep this very generic on the workshop today. We'll definitely dive into these more once we get pre-approved and all that kind of good stuff or any questions you have. But I want to make sure you know there's a couple different things. There's 30-year fixed mortgages, and there's just fixed mortgages in general, whether it's a 15-year, 20, 25, or 30-year. Those are basically what we consider fixed mortgages, where your principal and interest cannot adjust, right? That doesn't mean your taxes and insurance can't, because they can, but not a lot, okay? Number one. Number two, you also have what's called 5-1, 7-1, 10-1 arms, or in the new day and age, they're 5-6, 7-6, and 10-6, which basically means instead of it's 5 years, let's say 5 years fixed, and then every 6 months it's adjusting. Okay. Now, as a first time buyer, listen, the recommendation is always going to be a 30-year fixed mortgage, because at the end of the day, you want comfort, you want stability. You're not trying to buy a house and the next thing you know, not be able to afford your payment, right? We don't want that. We want to make sure you can afford it, make sure you're good to go, and also know that you know what your payment's pretty much going to be for 30 plus years. So super important. Now, there are down payment assistance programs out there. We get this question all the time, and I'll dive in a little bit more deeper later. But there's so many of these programs. We don't know really what your goals are yet. We don't know what your long-term plans are. So we got to figure out which one of these programs, if we go this route, is good for you, right? Because at the end of the day, each program, some you have to pay back, some they gift you the money, some there's equity share. So we got to figure out which really is the long-term plan here and what makes the most sense for you, as well as what's the short-term goal. So we will go over those options a little bit more detail when we get pre-approved, but we want to make sure you know they're out there. Real estate myth. I think this one gets missed a little bit because when they brought out the Dodd-Frank Act and did everything they did after the 07-08 recession and the housing meltdown, one of the biggest things they didn't really change was this, right? Where you should choose a lender with the lowest advertised interest rate, right? You're going to see this all the time, everywhere. Somebody's going to advertise these crazy interest rates, whether it's on TV or radio or just out there on a billboard, right? The reality of it is this. If one person qualifies, I can share it to the masses. So listen, if you're putting 50% down and you have an 840 credit score, trust me, your interest rate is going to be a lot different than somebody with a 640 credit score with 3% down, right? So the reality of it is a lot of it, we call it a bait and switch. They advertise a super low interest rate, then they pull your credit, they get all your documents, they basically get you pot committed in their mind, and then they go, by the way, this is what you qualify for. Look, at the end of the day, we're not going to do that to you. We want to make sure if it makes sense for you, we should have a pretty good idea what it looks like up front, as well as making sure when you kind of get your pre-approval, it's pretty accurate to what we talked about. Because at the end of the day, we're a broker, and we'll talk about what that means a little bit later, but we want to make sure you have all the different options out there. And we also want to make sure these lenders are competing for your business. So if they're competing for your business, then you have to understand that if it's none of these lenders can do it, it's probably not true. Okay. Now, let's talk about where you can get a mortgage. And I think a lot of people want to stay away from this question, especially being a loan officer, because they don't want you shopping around. But listen, we believe in what we do every single day. We've been doing this for a very long time. The reason why we're in the broker channel is because we want to give you the interest rates that you want, which is super low. So we're fully aware of what's out there in the current market. And we know that what we provide is great customer service. We work 7 days a week. Our team's always going to be here to help support you. We get questions all the time at 9 a.m. on a Saturday morning or 8 o'clock at night. And people are like, man, you guys answered. Well, look, the reason why we is we're a small shop. We're designed to be small, hands-on customer service. And that's what we do. Now, that doesn't mean we don't have a lot of options, because we do. And so do you. So you have 4 options to get a loan. You have a bank. That's your Chase, your Wells Fargo, your U.S. banks, all the different banks out there, right? And they do a little bit of everything, right? They do your credit cards, your checking accounts, your savings accounts, your CDs. They do mortgages. They do kind of everything. You got your credit unions, which I like to call your mom and pop version of your banks, but more designed to give you a little bit more customer service, a little bit more hands-on approach, right? A little bit more of that comfort level that you really want when you walk into your bank. Then you have what's called a mortgage company. That's like you probably heard of Rocket Mortgage, Guaranteed Rate. These are basically our mortgage companies. All they do is mortgages. They don't do any sort of checking accounts or savings accounts or none of that. And then you have what's called a mortgage broker, which is basically us. And what a mortgage broker is in our industry, when people work in our industry, we're considered wholesale brokers. And the reason why we're considered wholesale brokers is because think of us like Costco. The lender gives us a super good interest rate to give to you because they know that we have the potential client to bring to them, right? So they're like, look, we don't have to pay your W-2 wages. We don't need to give you benefits. We don't need to pay for your office space. We don't need to do none of this stuff. Where the other 3 places I mentioned, the banks, the credit unions, and the mortgage companies, they are considered retail shops in our industry because they're going to have retail interest rates. That's the reality of it. Remember, they have middle management, they got buildings, they got benefits, they got all these things they got to pay for. Well, that's got to come from somewhere, and that's why they put in the interest rate, so that way they basically are making that money. Now, I kind of went over a few of the reasons why you want to work with a mortgage broker in general. We work 7 days a week. We're very local oriented. So we're in our communities. We work our communities. This is what we're here for, right? We have great customer service. We still have a team approach where you're not feel like you're on an island by yourself. And at the end of the day, we're always going to have the better interest rates, usually on 9 out of 10 products. So the reality of it is we're going to give you what you're really looking for. But most people just don't know that we're out there, and that's why we're sharing this with you. Another myth is you should purchase a home at the end of top of your pre-approval, right? Like your let's say you're pre-approved for, let's just say $700,000. Everybody thinks that we just want to spend $700,000 as your agent, and the truth is that's not the way we look at things. We like to look at things as your payment. Where is your comfort level for payment? Where are you feel like at the end of the day, I'm getting the house that I want with the payment I'm feeling comfortable with every single month going out the door, because that's what you're going to remember, right? You're going to remember the payment going out the door, right? And so a lot of the times, we actually sometimes have to tell some of our clients, they go like, how much am I pre-approved for? I'm like, way more than you want to spend. They're like, well, how much? I'm like, no, I don't want to tell you. And they're like, well, tell me. And I'm like, no. And they're like, why? Because I'm like, look, your next thing you know, you're going to go look at houses that are $1,000 more a month than what you told me you want your payment to be. So at the end of the day, we're not trying to spend your money. We're trying to find the best house that you want in the city that you want with the payment you want. And we do what we can to get there. Now, if it's not possible, it's not possible. But our goal is to find that property that you love for the payment you love. So that's kind of the home lending side a little bit. Like I said, that's a 50,000 square foot view. We could definitely dive into more stuff later, but this is kind of here just to kind of go over just the basics for you currently. Now, the home buying process is super important. Just as well, but most people usually go find the agent first and then the loan officer. And actually, it should be reversed. You should find your loan officer first, get all your stuff dialed in with your assets, your income, and your payments. Because at the end of the day, you want to know how much cash do you need. You want to know what your payment's going to look like and all that stuff before you go look at a house. Because you walk in a house you absolutely love, and you don't know what the payment looks like, and then you go figure out what the payment is, and now you're heartbroken. We don't want that. So, but step 2 is finding the real estate agent, right? We need to figure out what you want, right? What are your needs? What are your wants? What's your time frame? Are you on a lease? You're not on a lease, right? What's the why? What's the why is the most important thing. And I think it gets missed sometimes. Is it because I want to have my kids in a certain school? Is it because you want financial security? Is it because you're tired of renting because your landlord keeps raising the rents? What is the why, right? That's the goal, right? Then we got to get pre-approved, right? We got to figure out your purchase price, your payment, your taxes, your insurance, right? What fits your programs? What's the things that like, hey, I can go FHA, I can go conventional. What's the pros and cons of those? I also have this first-time buyer program I can go after. And why would these work for me short-term and long-term? Those are all the key factors of getting you dialed in up front, okay? The education part is super important, right? Like one of the biggest things I think gets missed all the time, and I think what really freaks people out when they're buying properties is they basically go find a property they love, they look at it, they go write an offer, and the first time they write an offer is the first time they've seen a purchase contract. That should never happen. You should see a purchase contract way before you're writing your first offer, and you should review it with your agent so they can kind of go over the pros and cons of each of the line items and really break down how they can be used for you writing your offer, for negotiations and everything else, right? Because one of the biggest strengths of an agent isn't showing the property. Like I know the property seems like that's the biggest thing, or finding the property, but with properties all over the internet nowadays, the agent's not really designed there to find the properties for you as much unless it's an off-market opportunity. We're there to go over all the fiduciary responsibilities of an agent to protect you and what you're looking for, and then negotiate on your behalf, right? And really make sure that we have your best interest at heart. Okay. There's also inspections, there's disclosures, and these are forms that, like, if you don't see them every day, you're going to like get a huge pile of emails coming in, or a email with a bunch of documents, and it's going to be overwhelming. We want to make sure before you even write an offer on a property, or before you even view a property, we want you to know, like, hey, if you like a property, send it to us. Let's go get the disclosures. Let's go get the reports. Let's go get the things, and let's review these before you even see a property once or twice, right? Because now you're like, okay, cool. I know when I write my offer, I kind of know what that paperwork is going to look like once I'm in contract on the real estate side. So super important to make sure that the buyer education doesn't get missed. It does happen sometimes because people are like, I don't have time for that, or I don't want to do that. But I promise you, go through the complete education. Like, this is one part of our education process. This is just one part of maybe 4 to 5 that we do throughout the process to make sure that you're fully aware of what you're doing, right? There's a reason why when you get down payment assistance programs and stuff like that, there's There's home buyer education you have to take, right? So we want to make sure you take a home buyer education course. That's what we're here for, right? And that's what we're doing, right? Making sure that you have the information you need so you can make sure it makes the best decision for you. Okay. Next thing is, we got to make sure we have a few things in line. We need to know, what type of properties you want. What are your wants? What are your needs? We need to know when we're going to be showing you properties and when your time frame is to see properties, so we make sure we can get things lined up. We also got to make sure you understand what's going on with the current inventory in general and the timeline of how homes are getting on the market and leaving the market, because the market we got out of was crazy. Like, you literally, like, if you were not ready to see that property the same day, it could be gone. I mean, some properties were gone coming soon, right? So you had to be, right on top of it. And the current market is not as crazy anymore, right? But we still got to know when your schedule looks like, because at the end of the day, we don't want you to miss out on opportunities. Now, as a company, on our listing side, we do 3D tour Matterports. And what that basically is, it's a video walkthrough of the house that you actually can walk. It's just not a video of the property. You actually can go in, you can do measurements, you can walk around the property, you can spin around and say, okay, I like the way that wall looks. I can put the couch there, this, that, and the other. And it's called a Matterport, 3D Matterport walkthrough. A lot of homes have that as an option. Okay. And then I already talked about seller disclosure, so I'm not going to go over that with you now, because we already told you to do that in the last slide. So submitting an offer is super important, right? One of the other major strengths of an agent is how they submit offers, right? Not all agents submit offers the same way. As an agent that sees on the listing side, all over the place. I mean, I see agents that write offers that don't even contact me, and it's my listing. I have no idea who you are, who your client is. You just write an offer. Like, terrible approach. Terrible, right? But you need to understand where your strengths are as a client. You need to understand as a buyer, like, where is my strengths? Where are my weaknesses? And how do we hide the weaknesses? How do we make sure we put your strengths front and center and sell you to the potential seller or the potential listing agent, right? Super important. You also need to understand what the contingencies are that you have in place or not in place. What are those types of things that can stop you from buying this property? What are the things that are going to be coming when you get into escrow? And you need to be aware of those up front before you get into escrow, right? Because if not, then you're just going to be super overwhelmed. You're going to be super stressed out. And at the end of the day, that's the last thing we want to do for you. So you just got to make sure you know how to win, you know your strategy, and you know what type of contingencies you're going to have and what they really mean and how they work. Okay. We're also going to have you provide, between the loan officer and whoever else, proof of funds to make sure that we know that you could do the down payment you say you're going to do, as well as a pre-approval letter. Super, super valuable with making sure we write a good, strong offer, right? And then also, we're going to package it a certain way. And when we package it a certain way and we send it over, we have tracking systems in there. We make sure that we know exactly what page they're reviewing, all those other things. So we know exactly, how far the contract that they went through, where they're stuck, where they might have had issues, how long they're reviewing the offer, things like that, to make sure we put your offer in the best position possible. Okay. I've already told you a little bit about the team that you have here, but we have a huge team to help you, and everybody fits a seat, right? Everybody wants to say as an agent that I'm great at A to Z, but they're lying to you. There's no agent that can do everything amazing from A to Z. It's impossible. So each one of us has a position, has a role to help guide you through the process, to make sure that we make sure your experience is great, as well as you're protected, and we're looking out for your best interest. So inspections, right? One of the biggest things once you're in escrow that's going to happen right away is you're probably going to want to order some inspections to make sure the house is in good condition. Now, there's 4 major ones that we recommend, and there's definitely more that we'd recommend based off the property. But the 4 ones that I want to address today is your home inspection, which is basically your general inspection of the property. They'll look at the electrical, the plumbing, the roof, just the overall property itself, right? Then you have, which is the pest, and that's going to basically be your fungus, your dry rot, if there's termites, things like that in general, that can basically be a part of the house in general that's not in good shape, right? You have your roof, pretty straightforward. If there's any cracked tiles, there's any missing flashing, stuff like that. And then you have your sewer lateral, which basically is covering from the street plumbing to your house plumbing, right? So there is a huge line that basically takes the water from out of the house, sewer out of the house into the public sewage. And if that's bent or there's an issue there, guess what? That's going to cost sometimes between 5 and 10, maybe 12 grand to dig up and fix it, right? So you want to know that up front. Okay. Now, once we get the reports, we're going to go through those reports with you. We're going to go over a strategy of like, okay, is there certain things here that you want to have repaired? Is there certain things you want to credit for? Is there certain things you just don't care about? What are the things that are most important to you? And then at the end of the day, we'll give you some of our personal feedback on what we recommend doing. And then it's up to you to kind of make the choices on what you want to do. That's either A, move forward, A, or B, ask for credits, C, take it as is, or D, just a mixture of all of the above. I want to move forward, but I want some credits for this. I want some repairs here, or whatever you want to do. Okay. Now, the next big thing is the signing the final walkthrough of the home buyer workshop, right? One of the funnest steps is you do your final walkthrough of a property. You go back in there, you've got your clear to close from your loan officer, you got your docs basically being ordered from the lender to get ready for you to sign. And now we're going to go do our final walkthrough. We're going to walk the property again. And this is when it gets real. It's like, whew, I'm almost the homeowner of this property, right? You also want to make sure that everything is still in the same condition as when you bought it, right? You want to make sure that, there's no holes in the wall, the electrical still works, if the electricity is still on, the plumbing, everything's still in order, right? Check the doors, check the windows, make sure the house is in the same condition you really originally bought the house. Now, there's going to be a mobile notary. The mobile notary can come to your house. They can come to your work. They can go to a Starbucks. They can come to our office. They can go wherever they want for you to sign your loan documents. You get to kind of pick and choose. We work for you where you want that to be. Now, closing, very awesome. We get to basically come over, the whole champagne, the drop off of the key, all the good stuff. We get to celebrate, right? This is a big win for a lot of people. This is one of the biggest decisions a lot of people make in their lives, and we want to make sure that you know that it really means a lot to us, that you put your trust in us to make this happen, okay? Now, home buy construction, there's a few things here that most people do not know about new construction. We want to make sure we go over that with you, right? It's super, super important for us to be there the first time you look at any sort of new builds, because if we're not there on the new build, then they don't want us to help represent you. They want to basically get us out of the transaction, because at the end of the day, they want to work directly with you, right? The agent is hired by the builder to do what? Protect the builder. Now, they're going to make everything seem all amazing for you, but at the end of the day, their job is to protect the builder. That's their fiduciary duty, right? Whereas us being your buyer's agent, it's our fiduciary duty to protect you. And there are nuances to all new builds, right? Not every new build's the same. One of the things that new builds are different than pre-sale homes is they all have their own contracts. Their own contracts made by who? The builder's attorneys, correct. So who's protected? The builder. So you need to know how that affects you. And it's super, super important to know that when you're going into these new builds that you want us there. The other big thing is you want us to help represent you. You want us to help look out for your fiduciary duty. And if we're not the first one that walks in there with you, we cannot step in and help you, because now that builder's agent is technically your agent. And so at the end of the day, they're going to basically be helping both of you. And it's kind of hard to make sure that I protect the builder and make sure they're getting everything they possibly can, and I can get the buyer the best deal possible, right? It's pretty tough to do that. So the reality of it is you want to make sure that we are there to help represent you when you go on any new build at any time. And I always recommend do that on the weekends and go into 2 or 3 or 4 of them. And then that way you can kind of get a really good idea of what's out there. Now we're going to go to our last myth. This is our fifth and last myth, and we're going to go over a few things here. And this is just so you know, it's a 50,000 foot view. We definitely dive deeper in our one-on-one workshops for you. We dive into more into individual markets and everything else, and really dive into the data. But I'm going to go over what this next slides are going to be. These are just some overall views of what's going on in the real estate market in general over a long period of time. But the question we get is, now's a bad time to buy a home? And the answer to that is no, it's not a bad time to buy a home, and I'll tell you why. Because this slide really tells you what's been going on, and you know it, I know it, for the last 30 plus years. Rents have done nothing but continue to basically climb. There's no sign of rents really going down. Now, will they soften a little bit? Yes. Is there some apartment buildings being built in 2023 across the nation? Yes. Is there enough to do a dent in the rents? No. Now, will it slow down rents going up? Sure, a little bit, but we're so light on supply that it's very, very tough for rents to come down. We don't have enough inventory to sell, to live in, for the amount of people we have living here in the United States. The other big thing is appreciation, right? Like I did a report, I did a video a couple of days ago, and the top 15 cities to buy in since 1998 and so on. But this slide's even better. This goes back from 1945, since World War II, all up to 2021. And yeah, we had a little bit of a dip, right? But if I had to do the numbers here and look at it, I mean, would you say it's a good asset? It's going to appreciate over a period of time? I'm going to go with yes. Yeah, there was a dip in '07, '08, and it bounced back, and we've climbed higher than even that, right? So the reality of it is there's no sign of real estate not being a great long-term asset. It is proven that it gives you more wealth and everything else. For the fifth year in a row, too, 8 in 10 Americans say buying a home is a priority, right? We know buying a home for wealth and for security and for stability is super, super important. But most people don't understand where to start, how the process works. And that's why we're doing these types of workshops, is to kind of give you, the process and give you the updates on what's really happening, what's going on. Okay. We talked about this a little bit, but it's true. 40 times greater net worth as an agent than, or as a homeowner than as a renter, right? So, when you own home, every payment you make is paying down your principal reduction. Plus, if the market is increasing, 2%, 4%, 6% year over year, then the reality is you're making money as well as you're paying down your mortgage. So you're going to have more wealth as a homeowner than as a renter. Now, there's nothing wrong with renting. Don't get me wrong. This isn't a renters are bad people. This is nothing to do with that at all. This is just explaining to you that the wealth of buying a home and owning a home is higher than a renter. And that's kind of our overview of the workshop. I wanted to try to keep it under 30 minutes. I was able to do that today. I definitely appreciate you tuning in and really going over this with me. If you want a personal workshop and us diving deeper into the programs or diving deeper into the data, which we normally do on our one-on-one workshops, let us know. We'd be more than happy to schedule one with you. It's free of cost. There's no hidden fees, nothing like that at all. Because at the end of the day, we want to be here for you and make sure that we are doing our part to educate you before you buy a home, because education is the number one step. As always, I appreciate you tuning in. Have any questions? I'll be here. Talk to you soon.